Hi, this is Tim of the 1916 Company with another unboxing. Today, something rare and exquisite, an unusual opportunity even by the standards of my office. We have Roger W. Smith full box papers. This is going to be an unboxing of the Series 4. Now, the first thing I can tell you is just sitting in the presence of this box, I smell something that's evocative, not so much of watches, but of cars. This is real leather and of the highest grade. It is the kind of smell that I associate with the likes of Bentley, Rolls-Royce, Aston Martin interiors. This is an exquisite presentation, albeit a simple one. As you can see, it's not a more is more approach. The box is quite simple, though distinctively shaped. Now, the first thing you do is, we'll zoom out a little bit here, pull the flap, and then it's a box in a box. The outer box is more like a semi-rigid leather sleeve. You can see how that's put together right there. It's got a little flap to retain the closure. And then very similar to the outer package, we have the inner box and this little snap closure. You open it up, and this is really where you get hit in the face by that genuine leather smell. I've been through a lot of high-end watches that have leatherette, pleather, plastic, all manner of vinyl. This is the real thing. It smells, looks, and feels fantastic. Now, as you can see, coaxial escapement, as George Daniels, inventor of the coaxial, brought Roger W. Smith on board in 1997 to become his apprentice and his business partner working on the Millennium series. From 2001, Smith built his own watches, starting with the Series 1 in its first iteration, which was a rectangular watch. Well, the 4 that you see right here, along with the other series, all debuted for the first time or via extensive redesign in 2015, which is sort of like 0 hour for the current Roger W. Smith collection. It's where all of the current references in their current forms came from. But this watch right here, the Series 4, is the most complex. It's a triple calendar with a sort of entrenched orbital date and a Moonphase, and it is an instantaneous change, which we'll see in a moment. But the watch itself is one of reportedly 10 made to date, and this example in yellow gold is said to be unique. We'll do a quick look at the watch and talk about some of the basics. So I actually reached out to Roger Smith, and he was quite helpful in nailing down some of the more esoteric features of his watches, namely power reserve, which is everywhere from 36 to 50 online. Well, he said 52 is the number for his watches. This piece right here is one of the largest he's made because the triple calendar Moonphase is 41 millimeters in diameter. This unique combination of dial features and yellow gold, 41 in diameter, 14.7 millimeters thick, 48.4 lug-to-lug, and then it has an idiosyncratic 19.5 millimeter spacing in between the lugs. Taking a look at the dial, let's try to get this in focus. Okay, we'll just get a little bit closer this way. You can see the unique spade-style tips to those hands, and that everything has been fired to a sort of violet brown. Now, when you adjust the watch, you can see that there are several different cuts on the dial. Roger Smith cases, dials, movements, all made in-house along with his distinctive hands, and the dials are multi-piece, lathe cut, and held together by pins and screws. Taking a quick look now, you'll see the instantaneous, watch the centrifugal date here. Instantaneous change just like that. Very difficult to do. You'll also note the presence of stop seconds. On the reverse side, you can see the movement, beautifully decorated, but very disciplined. It is not a gilded lily, so to speak. It is not a movement the likes of which Grubel 4C would issue. This features traditional British watchmaking codes, freehand engraved crown wheel and ratchet wheel cap, 3/4 style plate, enormous fire-blued screws, frosted bridges, no notable bevels, but pivot jewels set in golden chaton cups fixed by screws. You can see the cover to the crown and ratchet wheel freehand engraved along with the balance cock. Free-sprung balance, surprisingly, 18,000 vibration per hour beat rate. And you can see that the bridge for the coaxial, which is a single wheel coaxial, still 2 planes of escapement and 1 plane of driving powertrain, so a 3-level, but with one wheel for upper and lower impulsing surfaces. It's beaten away at 18,000 vibrations per hour, and you can see its bridge in rose gold, mirrored and beveled. It's probably the most dramatically decorated part of this watch. You can also see a number of unconventional hallmarks. I think for some reason I've lost my focus here with the camera, but you can see a combination of Great Britain, 18-karat gold, London, and then a little mark right here, the X, that equates to 2022. Now, the tri-level coaxial is the latest version of the Daniels system, a direct and indirect impulse tangential friction system as opposed to the sliding friction of a Swiss lever, improving power reserve, reducing maintenance requirements, and improving chronometry. And since Roger Smith works on the Isle of Man, you can see that Triskelion, or the three, one might say, coaxial armored legs. It's also on the flag of the Isle of Man. Unusual feature, too, of Smith movements. You can see that the wheels of the train are polished. So that is the watch itself. You can see a beautifully made case with welded lug construction and a dial from one of the world's foremost guilloche. We'll zoom out a little bit. Take a look at what else comes in this spectacular box. So not a whole lot more, but what is here seems quite special. You can see that we have this mounting placard, and once that's removed, we have a Roger Smith branded polishing cloth, and again, more of that incredible waft of premium leather. We have a little pusher tool because the Series 4 is a multi-calendar and a Moonphase, and all the settings are done using pusher adjusters. We have this wonderful little mini folio, and then inside, this is a very bespoke experience. So on the secondary market, the fact that this watch is probably one of 10 Series 4 roughly made to date and unique in its exact details makes it a fascinating prospect because you're unlikely to see another one, and unless this watch comes back to me, neither will I. So interior of the notices, we have the Roger W. Smith official postage stamp. So this is an actual thing. You can see the Great Britain clock he created for the Great Britain Global Ambassador promotion back in 2013. And then you can see that the signature is indeed his, Dr. Roger W. Smith, OBE, little note. And you can see some of the notes concerning the year of production, as well as the mechanical and physical features of the watch. Taking a quick look at the remainder of the documentation. It's actually the last page. There's only 3 pages in here. All of them are an extremely, extremely heavy, almost like a cardstock type of paper. You can see some of the features of the watch right here, as well as some of the additional details. You can see English worked red leather presentation box. Probably why the box smells like the inside of a Rolls-Royce or a Bentley. Taking a quick look, you can see that there's not a whole lot going on here. The instructions for the use of the watch are more or less confined to the papers themselves. And then we have some interesting advisories here. But the most interesting is probably this little bit, servicing. As with any fine machine, your watch will benefit from being serviced from time to time. If you wear your watch regularly, we recommend that you have it serviced every 10 to 15 years. For less frequent use, we recommend a service interval of 20 years. Obviously carried out by Roger W. Smith, but 10 to 20 years? That is a shocking revelation. And it makes you wonder what all those brands advising 2 to 5 years don't understand that Roger Smith, making his 10 watches a year, has somehow figured out. Maybe he said the quiet part out loud that the big brands don't want you to know. With modern synthetic lubricants and manufacturing tolerances, 20 years, even 10 to 15. As for the rest, not a whole lot to surprise, but the fact that all of this does pretty much come from his own shop and his own hand. You have a little bit more instruction on the reverse side about how to operate the watch. What I find fascinating here is that there doesn't appear to be any specific danger zone in which you should not set the watch. Although it does say it may be necessary to advance the hands by 12 hours to ensure that the date change takes place at midnight, it is best practice to first set the month followed by the date and the day, but nothing about not setting it at night or not setting it between 8 p.m. and 4 a.m. A fascinating little bit of information regarding a watch few will ever have the opportunity to own. And if you are one of the few out there, let this serve as a reference if you don't have your guidance handy from the manufacturer. So that is the Roger W. Smith Series 4 from the Watchmaker's Apprentice, the tradition of George Daniels as practiced on the Isle of Man to this day. And this is a piece unique Series 4. Reach out to Team Mosso at the 1916company.com for purchase and pricing details.